Hi, welcome to the second part of Unit 6 review. Totally not about to restart that video, so we're just starting off at number 11. Here we are, ASA. Okay, so, let's write down the congruence statements. My goodness. Okay, so here is the first angle that I'm going to label, that angle M. I'm going to call it angle AMR. The other angle M, I'm going to call angle YMR. Sweet. Okay. Next, I'm going to do that side in the middle, which is MR. They both share it, so MR is congruent to MR. And then I'm going to do those double angles. I'm going to call angle R that's on that top triangle ARM. And on the bottom triangle, I'm going to call it angle YRM. Remember, you could have switched those two outside letters as long as R was in the middle there. Alright, number 12. Are these congruent? Well, let's see. I have an angle and an angle. I've got a side and a side. Is there anything else I can label? Yeah, that side in the middle. Is this a congruency? Is ASS allowed? Absolutely not. We do not swear in school or in geometry. They're not congruent. Number 13. Let's see if these two triangles are congruent. They both have sides labeled. They both have this angle labeled. Is there anything else I can label? Yeah, that side in the middle. Are these triangles congruent? Absolutely. By side, angle, side. Let's write down the congruent statements. On the bottom, I have EF and GF. The angles are angle EFD or DFE, and that's congruent to GFD or DFG. Doesn't matter as long as F is in the middle. And then let's use that reflexive property to say that DF is congruent to DF. Sweet. 14. Which congruent statement can be used to show that these are congruent by angle, side, angle? Well, in this image, I already have a side marked, so all I need are two angles. So I can boldly cross off A and B, because those are just sides. Now C and D start the same way. Angle K is congruent to angle R. Before I even check my options, I'm going to mark the correct angle on the triangles that I need to make this angle side angle, and then we'll see which option helps, or is correct, I mean. In this triangle, I need angle M, and in this one, I need angle T. Looks like our answer is letter C. Let's do the same thing for 15. Here, I'd like a congruence. Which congruent statements can be used to show that these two triangles are congruent by side, angle, side? Looks like I've got an angle marked, which means I need sides. I can cross off C and D because those are angles. Now A and B start exactly the same, KM and RT. Let's mark it, KM, RT. Next, I'm going to mark the second side that I need in order to make this congruent by side, angle, side. In this triangle, it should be KL, and in this one, it should be RS. Do we got that? Do we got that? Do we have that? We sure do. Letter A, LK, and SR. Number 16. Suppose angle M and angle Y are congruent. What else would I need to make these congruent using side, angle, side? Well, let's check it out. Here I have angle M and angle Y. They're already congruent. I need two more sides to make them congruent to each other. These two triangles congruent to each other. Now, it might be tough to see the two different triangles, so I'm going to trace them. Here's one triangle, and here's the other one. Right. I need two sides surrounding those angles. I need this side and this side on the green triangle, and I need this one and this one on the purple one. Let's write down the congruencies. That's MA congruent to YR, and then we've got MR congruent to YA. Number 17. Oh, I made this a long review, huh? Number 17, suppose MA is congruent to YR. What information would I need to make these triangles congruent? Using angle side angle. Well, let's check it out. Now, I already told you that MA and YR are congruent. Let's mark it, MA, YR. And once again, I'm going to trace these triangles to make them easier to see, at least for myself. Maybe you have that kind of artistic mind and you can see it better. All right, I need two angles. Well, it looks like I need this angle, and then this one and that one. All right, so for the single ones, I'm going to call the one on top angle AMR. And for the single on the Y, I'm going to call it RYA. Forgot the angle symbol. There it is. Now let's do the double angles. The one that's with an A in the middle, I'm going to call it MAR. And the one with an R in the middle, I'm going to call it angle YRA. Remember, you could have had those outside letters switch as long as A and R are in the middle to indicate those two angles. Number 18, same image. Let's suppose that MR is congruent to YA, and I want this to be side, side, side. Let's see what they're missing. Well, I need these two outside sides, and then they do happen to share the bottom. Let's write down the congruency statements for the two ticks. Got MA congruent to YR, and then I got AR congruent to AR. 19. Suppose AB is a perpendicular bisector of CD. What congruent line segments are formed by the perpendicular bisector? Now, what a perpendicular bisector does is it creates two 90-degree angles and two perfectly halved sides. Or it cuts a side into perfect half, so it creates two congruent sides. My bad. So, what are the line segments? CB and BD. And what are the angles? Well, it's angle ABC and angle ABD. Number 20. Suppose ER is a perpendicular bisector of GO. Are there congruent triangles in your diagram? Explain your reasoning. Oh, let's do that. So, first, let's label it. We get two congruent right angles and two congruent sides. Then, we could also mark ER right there as congruent to itself using the reflexive property. So, it looks like they're congruent by side, angle, side. Congruent statements. First, we've got GE congruent to EO. And I'm going to write that's because ER bisects GO. The two angles that we get are angle REG, which is congruent to our angle REO, because ER is perpendicular to GO. And lastly, I can write that ER is congruent to ER. The reason is reflexive property. Awesome. Last one. In the figure, Miranda determines that DF and AC are congruent. Let's mark that immediately. DF and AC. They also measure angle C and angle F and determine that those are congruent. Let's mark it. I should not use green on a green picture. Let's mark it. Angle C and angle F. Now notice how I'm using the arches, and in number 20 I use the boxes? Well, number 20 I have right angles. That's why they're boxes. In 21, I just know that Miranda measured those angles. I don't know what the measures are, so I'm using an arch. Okay. They conclude that these triangles are congruent by side angle side. Is that enough information? Is Miranda correct? Explain your reasoning. Now, sure, we can count and see that there are 3 boxes on CB and EF that Miranda would need to make the side angle side. However, they did not state that. So, unfortunately, no. That is not enough info. Miranda is missing a side. Again, if Miranda measured CB, which she would need, and EF, which she would need, she could say side angle side. However, that didn't happen, so she can't. Alright, thanks for sitting through part 2. Sorry it was all broken up like that. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of whatever day it is for you. Bye!